pick up good information, because I hope that at the end of the day, not only will I provide you with information on how you can get assistance in response to Tropical Storm Eta, but most importantly, how you can get assistance in the event of a disaster, because I explained basically how that works. And so I'm going to start by sharing a 1-minute video that tells you what the Small Business Administration does on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis. And that's going to give way to my explanation of what we do when disaster strikes. So allow me to share my screen. And Amanda, let me know if you can see a video. Just want to make sure that you guys are seeing the right. There we go. I'm not sure if you can hear the audio, can you?
Not yet. I can see the video, can't hear the audio.
And so, as I said, this is what the SBA does on a daily basis. And what we do thanks to partners like Amplify Clearwater. If you heard on that recording, basically, oops, let me go ahead and put this up. It speaks about how we are coaches, we're friends, we're mentors, we're advocates, and what if not are those the chambers of commerce. And so it is important that you understand the relationship between the SBA, chambers of commerce, and a wide range of other partners throughout the fiber of the community, and how each of them play a role in not only conveying critical information like the one we're about to convey to you, but maintaining those relationships in order to be to help you grow your business and obviously recover much stronger from a disaster. So I encourage you to, if you haven't already, join your local chambers of commerce, get connected with those resources that I'm going to talk about throughout the presentation, because they're critical, not only on a regular day-to-day basis, gaining access to valuable information, but most importantly, having that support mechanism that you need in order to recover from a disaster. And so next, I'm going to start then with a short presentation, if I may. And computer's a little slow, so bear with us. Technology again, there we go. And so again, we appreciate the opportunity that Amplify Clearwater is providing us to be able to speak with you, to the members of your community, to the business owners, homeowners, renters, private nonprofit organizations. And I'll explain to you how each of you basically can benefit from the information that we're going to share today. And today, again, we're sharing information in terms of disaster recovery after Tropical Storm Eta, or in support of Tropical Storm Eta. And I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about the SBA, particularly the Office of Disaster Assistance, which is the office that I work for and the team that basically provides that assistance after disasters. And then I'll explain to you all of the available programs and service information related to Tropical Storm Eta recovery. Last but not least, then we're going to go exactly to what we came here for, which is I'm going to encourage you to apply and get that help. And I'm going to leave you with some resources, some kind of a recap of all the information that we talk about, and open the forum for questions and answers. And so as we go along, if you have some questions, you can post them on the chat, or you can simply save them for when we open the forum for those questions. So the SBA, the U.S. Small Business Administration, has been helping Americans day to day or after disaster since the 1950s. The Office of Disaster Assistance, particularly, is there after a disaster to provide affordable, low interest, long-term disaster loans. And these are low interest loans to businesses of all sizes, private nonprofit organizations, homeowners, and renters to be able to repair or replace damaged real estate, personal property, machinery, equipment, inventory, and those business assets that you need in order to operate your business, to open your doors again and be that link to the community. These must have been destroyed by a declared disaster, such as, in this case, Tropical Storm Eta. One thing I'll highlight is at the bottom of every one of our slides going forward, you'll have our contact information just to make sure that you have enough time to jot it down, even though at the end we'll explain to you what each one of those resources may provide you, how they can provide you with assistance. And so the Office of Disaster Assistance, we're part of a national team. We're pretty much in every community through our offices. And when disaster strikes, these locations are the ones that kick in into operations in order to be able to provide that assistance. We have two main hubs, if you will, from where we operate, one in Northern California, in Citrus Heights, California, and the other one located in Atlanta, Georgia. From those 2 points, our teams deploy throughout the nation every time there is a disaster to be able to go door to door within the communities. Because of current conditions, we're working at a safe distance, and so we are providing virtual support. And so you'll hear me talk about how we're just a phone call away. And when you submit an application, then you'll be dealing with two offices within this group, and I highlighted them in light blue, one at the bottom left, the other one at the top right of that screen. At the bottom left, you have our Processing and Disbursement Center, which is located in Fort Worth, Texas, North Central Texas. That is the group that basically handles your application from the moment you submit it to the end, or to throughout the life cycle of that loan till you pay it off. And then our customer service unit is basically in upstate New York. Every time you call our 800 number, 659-2955, you will communicate with one of our experts in that location. And so you know where you'll be talking to and which part of the team you'll be connecting with, depending on your needs. What we do, we certainly don't do alone. I always say that. And what the SBA does then when disaster strikes is all of the SBA resources come into play, because each and every one of them play a role in providing you with that assistance. And so those are the SBA regional offices, our district offices. We're located throughout the country, as I said. The SBDCs, which is the Small Business Development Centers, Women Business Centers, SCORE, which is a team of retired professionals, and of course, your chambers of commerce, in this case, Amplify Clearwater. Any one of these partners can actually help you reconstruct financial records, prepare financial statements, and most importantly, guide you or to complete that application at no cost. What we do completely free. This is federal aid, and so there are no costs associated with applying or withdrawing from an application, and we'll speak about that in just a moment. And like I said, then we also provide you with assistance through the life of that loan, whether it is approved, declined, or withdrawn. And I'll explain to you what the latter two terms are. Approved is obviously self-explanatory. Once you're approved, it'll be that conversation you have with your loan officer. You have your terms. Declinations occur typically because of small details that may have been omitted on the application, such as a missing or incorrect zip code or phone number or email account. No means for us to communicate with you. And that, as you may imagine, is a critical step. Right after you submit your application, we need to get in touch with you. We also need to get in touch with you to update or request new information or correct information. And so make sure that when you fill out your application, take your time to review the application first to make sure you understand what information is going to be required of you, so you can have it handy and you can review it to make sure that it's the correct information your key need. Withdrawal, what was withdrawn rather? Your application can go into a withdrawal state if the application is found to have either incomplete or incorrect information, one, or if we request something of you. Once you submit your application, communication line is going to be opened and we're going to be asking you for information. If that request goes out your way, which is going to be by email, you have a certain time, a window of opportunity, if you will, to respond. If that window of opportunity closes, your application is not deleted or it doesn't go into a limbo. It simply falls into a withdrawal state, which is a state in which you can reactivate at any moment by simply contacting us and providing that information that we requested. And so if you don't hear from us, you can reach out. You can go online to sba.gov/disaster and check the status of your account. If it is in withdrawal, now you know there is something that's pending for you to respond and provide. Our partners also can provide management and counseling service to disaster business loan applicants to you. The idea behind these management and counseling services is to be able to help you have a stronger long-term recovery. However, we do encourage you to, once you start those relationships, build off of those relationships and keep them going forward, as they're going to help you once you recover and you start your normal basis or your new normal basis of doing business. Those relationships are going to be critical to help you grow your business. Last but not least, we depend on these resources to be able to find locations. As I said, typically we are on the ground. And so we open up business recovery centers in your community. These are the offices or these are the partners that make it happen. The SBA simply provides the assistance and the information, the logistics, and all of the locations and all of that on the ground assistance is provided by our partners. And so that is how all of this comes together after a disaster. In this particular, as I said, we're providing assistance after Tropical Storm Eta. It is an agency declaration. And so I'd like to here explain the difference between what an agency declaration and a presidential declaration is, because you may have seen or will see those terms going forward. A presidential declaration occurs after a major disaster. That depends on the scope of the level of damage that a disaster may have. Something such as Hurricane Katrina, for example, something that large that impacts so many people becomes a presidential declaration. When the disaster is of a more localized scope, such as in this case, it affected a particular area within Southwest Florida, the governor of that state basically requests that the agency provide assistance. So in response to the governor, the SBA is providing that assistance, hence the term agency declaration. And that basically is for Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco County. And so businesses of all sizes, private nonprofit organizations, homeowners and renters located in Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco are eligible to apply for either physical damage disaster loans or economic injury disaster loans from the SBA. And we'll expand on the differences between what physical and or economic injury is. Important to keep in mind throughout this entire presentation, I'm going to be highlighting deadlines. One is just around the corner, which is for physical damage applications. It is March the 29th, midnight on March the 29th. That is the last day you have to apply for physical damages. And if you're looking for working capital or economic injury as a result of Tropical Storm Eta, you have until midnight on October the 28th, 2021, to be able to provide those applications. Why should you get into a loan in order to recover from disaster? As I said at the beginning, we provide you with affordable, long-term, low interest rates. And so this is the reason why we encourage you to consider a disaster loan to help you recover. Disaster rates for these disaster are as low as 1.125 for homeowners and renters. And I'll say that again, 1.125%, 2% for nonprofit organizations, or 3% for business of any size for physical disaster loans. And I'll explain to you again what physical disaster loans entail. For economic injury disaster loans or working capital, small businesses and small agricultural cooperatives can get up to 3% and not 2% for nonprofit organizations. That is for working capital. And so here we go in terms of the different loan products that the SBA has to offer after a disaster. We spoke about physical damage. And so for businesses and the private nonprofits, they can apply for up to $2 million to be able to repair or replace real estate, equipment, furniture. Again, those assets that your organization needs in order to reopen the doors and continue your operations. Again, up to $2 million for physical damage. And you can apply either or, a combination of the two, for economic injury as well. Again, you can repair property, contents, and at the same token, those obligations that you were unable to maintain because of the disaster, perhaps the interruption in revenue, you were not able to pay for your lease, whether it is the business or equipment, your payroll. Again, those operating expenses that you need to maintain in order to keep your business afloat, that would be an economic injury, and therefore that is working capital. You can apply for up to $2 million. And so a combination of the two, physical damage and or economic injury, you can apply for if you're a business, private, nonprofit organization as well. And so economic injury, again, is working capital to be able to help you get the doors open and back up in operation. And then homeowners and renters, we have physical damage. For homeowners, you can get up to $200,000 to be able to repair or replace real property. That's anything you see within the structure of the house, whether it is the roof, the windows, the doors. Then you'll be able to apply for up to $200,000. And by the same token, you can apply for up to $40,000 to repair or replace physical damage, your contents, anything inside the home, including automobiles. And that applies to renters. In this area, we know that there's quite a lot of renters. And so behind a homeowner who rents the property is that renter. And so both of them can apply. The homeowner can apply to be able to repair the property, and the renter then be able to repair or replace the contents that may have been lost as part of this event, including automobile. If all you had was a damaged vehicle, which was very common in this event, we had a lot of flood, and you need just to be able to repair your car to be able to get back to work, that is something we can do for you. And so reach out to us, even if it is a smaller type of loan that you need to be able to get back on your feet. Mitigation funding, that is very important to highlight. It is available to business, private nonprofit organizations, and homeowners. And this is for you to be able to protect the property against future damages from similar disasters. We want you to rebuild, and we want you to rebuild stronger. To mitigate the effects of a future disaster, because it is not about if, but when disaster strikes again. And so you can get up to 20% of the verified physical damages, and their homeowners are limited to up to $200,000. Again, that is a combination of between physical damage and or mitigation funding. You have the $200,000 limit that you need to consider. Important to mention that mitigation funding cannot be used for upgrades or to expand the business or a home, or to make additions. This is, again, to strengthen your house, to make it more resilient, or your business towards future disasters. We encourage you to, if you're not sure what a mitigation project could be, this could be something as simple as installing hurricane shutters, as building a safe room that can protect you against a tornado, installing a sump pump, elevating the property to mitigate the effects of a flood. If you're not sure what mitigation projects may be applicable to your property, reach out to your local emergency management office at your county level, and they may be able to assist you with some advice as to how you can make your property, whether it is your business or your home, more resilient towards future disasters. Floods is a typical scenario in your area, so think about what you can do in terms of installing a sump pump or perhaps raising the property, for example. Okay. Eligibility and restrictions. We spoke about affordable low interest loans, and something else that you need to keep in mind is that this is a loan, yes, and it requires a certain level of obligation on your end. However, there is a difference between how we provide the loans, between how typically you get a loan through the banking system and how you can apply and obtain benefits from a federal disaster loan. We look at your credit history. We don't take, however, your credit score solely as the base for our determination. We're going to look at your conditions, current conditions, obviously, you're affected by a disaster, plus that credit history to be able to determine your ability to repay. And based on that ability to repay are going to be the terms that we're going to talk to you about, and building those terms that are best suitable for you and your organization to be able to not only obtain a loan, but have a healthy way of recovering while you repay that loan. Important to highlight that only uninsured or otherwise uncompensated tropical storm ETA related losses are deemed eligible by this declaration. That is a typical scenario where someone may have been affected by a prior disaster. And so you're asked, well, I was affected by, I don't know, hurricane so-and-so a few years ago, and I'm still paying a loan, an SBA loan since then. And so now I have new damages related to this. Those damages that are related to this disaster, Tropical Storm ETA, are applicable for a new loan. And so we're going to look at the two and be able to merge the two loans to be able to provide you. That's going to be part of that conversation about establishing the terms, by the way. Secondary homes, vacation properties, personal pleasure boats, airplanes, recreational vehicles, and similar property may not be eligible. And I changed that language from are not to may not, because they can be eligible if used for business purposes. Obviously, the microeconomy has changed things. And so there may be business owners within your area that are using those second home properties as a rental property. So if you have the ability to provide evidence that you're using that property as a business enterprise, you may very well be able to qualify it in addition to your primary home. And so that is, again, part of the conversation you need to have with your loan officer once we reach out to you. Applicants who have not complied with the terms of a previous SBA loan agreement. And that could be whether it was you were not able to maintain the payments, for example. And if something that 2020 taught us is that there's quite a lot of opportunities for that to have happened. And so if by any chance you had a prior loan of a prior SBA disaster loan, and for one reason or another, you were not able to maintain those commitments, you may not be eligible. However, don't let that discourage you from applying. That is, again, something you're going to highlight on your application, and part of the conversation you will have with your loan officer, where we're going to discuss what those conditions were, what brought you to that situation, and how we can resolve that matter, to be able to get you into a consolidated loan, perhaps, where we can help you recover from the current disaster. Now, this includes borrowers who may not have the chance to or the opportunity to maintain flood and or hazard insurance. That's one of the conditions that we put on in order to be able to obtain an SBA disaster loans, and we'll talk about it on the next slide. Here we go. Here we go. Collateral and insurance. Physical loans under $25,000, and that is, again, physical damage loans under $25,000 require collateral. Economic injury loans or working capital over the $25,000 mark require collateral, and you can get up to $50,000 of unsecured disaster business loans when combined between the physical disaster loans and or the economic injury loans. Now, we will not decline you because of a lack of collateral. The SBA, as part of that conversation, is going to ask you to pledge what's available. Again, we're going to figure out what you have, what's available as collateral, and we're going to pledge for you to present that or as a collateral. However, we will never decline you because of a lack of collateral. Now, borrowers whose damage or collateral property is in a special flood area is going to be required to purchase and maintain flood insurance. At the bottom of this slide, we have a website, which is floodsmart.gov. Whether or not you apply, whether or not you feel that this is a requirement, we invite you to visit that website and explore how easy and affordable it is to not only purchase but maintain flood insurance, something you can do on your own in order to strengthen yourself before the next disaster. And so again, if you're required then to purchase and maintain flood insurance, that's going to be the coverage, rather, is going to be the lesser of A, the total of the disaster loan, or B, the insurable value of the property, or C, then the maximum insurance available. And so those are going to be the three factors that drive that coverage when we talk about flood insurance coverage. And floodsmart.gov, it's a good point of reference to be able to get quite a lot of information that's going to motivate you, we hope, to purchase that insurance if you haven't. So again, some of the benefits and as to why should you get into debt in order to recover from disaster. These are the benefits of an SBA loan. For one, for the business community, we're a working capital, we're a cash flow lender. And so that is the basis of this loan, is to be able to open your doors back and reactivate that local economy within your community. And these loans are, again, affordable, long-term, low interest rates. We spoke about 1.188, as low as 1.188, 2% and 3%. These are offered at no cost, with no closing costs whatsoever. So there are no costs associated with applying or withdrawing. And I'll speak about that in a moment. The terms are flexible for up to 30 years, provided that you don't have credit available elsewhere. If you do have credit available elsewhere, the terms may have a maximum of 7 years. That's going to be a part of the conversation with your loan officer. There are no prepayment penalty fees. Funds are available prior to insurance. So if you're listening and you're still waiting for that insurance claim to consolidate, wait no more. You don't have to wait any longer in order for you to be able to present an application to the SBA. As a matter of fact, we encourage you to do so now, especially because we're approaching the deadline, because you can get that SBA disaster loan before that insurance money kicks in. Now, you can start then your recovery, whether it is repairing or rebuilding, before that insurance comes in. Once the insurance proceeds come in, you can utilize those proceeds to repay the portion of the loan that you have used. You can maintain both thereafter, your insurance proceeds plus the loan, to be able to recover stronger. And so that is one of the big benefits that you have to consider a disaster loan. You may be eligible for refinancing or relocation. We understand that there are communities out there in your area who homes or properties were condemned, and so now you have to think about relocating. That is part of the conversation you can have with your loan officer. I need to relocate, and whether it is voluntarily or involuntarily, we may be able to provide assistance. We spoke about mitigation funds and the things you can do to protect your property. Again, put in shutters, something as simple as that can be a mitigation project. We do not require estimates when doing a whether it repair or a mitigation project funding request. We're simply going to have a conversation in terms of what is it that you want to do, and obviously we'll put it in perspective to what this disaster cost in your area and the exposure that you have to disasters to approve that funding. We're not going to bother in asking you for damage estimates because we know that is something that you require in your area. Now, one of the key benefits of applying for an SBA disaster loan is we know that you're recovering from a disaster. And so that first payment is going to be deferred for a full year from the moment you sign the promissory note. Depending on circumstances, and again, I refer to 2020, that first payment date may be extended depending on the circumstances. And so again, that is the level of flexibility that we offer in terms of applying for and obtaining and recovering with the help of a disaster loan. And if there is federal or state assistance, I'm not sure if there is any in this case. That assistance may be limited or has a deadline, and so you can apply for SBA disasters and not necessarily depend on that assistance. Loans can be modified. We spoke about whether or not you already had an existing loan, or if conditions change going forward, you can always come back to us and we can have a discussion in order to modify that loan to be able to help you maintain that commitment. Very important. You may be able to be referred to other programs. There are community organizations in your area who are providing other types of assistance. And so as part of the conversation, we're going to uncover what your needs are, and whatever needs we're unable to meet, those unmet needs, we may be able to then provide you with a referral to grants in your local area that may be able to assist. And last but not least, like I said before, there is no obligation whatsoever to take a loan. You can apply, you can go through all of the motions, get approved, and once you're approved, if you don't feel comfortable with it, you can simply walk away with no penalties whatsoever. So that is, I think, one of the most appealing benefits, if you will, of applying for an SBA disaster loan, to the fact that we don't hold you accountable to have to take that loan if you don't feel comfortable with taking it. Or you can take it in segments, in portions. Particularly when you have a mitigation project, that you have a long-term mitigation project, you can segment that money as you complete the project, so the money stays with us and you simply withdraw the amounts that you need as time goes by. That level of flexibility, again, of where you how you have the freedom to manage your loan, can only be offered through the SBA and on a disaster loan. And how do you get all these help that I speak about? Is very easy. You simply go to sba.gov/disaster. And again, the process is very easy, very convenient. It's online. It is a 3-step process that goes very quickly. And the one thing we need to make sure is that you read information on what document, what information, again, is going to be required of you to make sure you have accurate information on hand when you sit down to complete that application. If you're unable to access the website, or if you have no access to internet, you can call us to get paper loan applications or to get additional information through our virtual disaster loan outreach center. And that's a mouthful. As I said, we're basically just a phone call away. We are there Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we're just at 800-659-2955. Again, 800-659-2955, or you can just shoot us an email. Send us an email to foce-help@sba.gov. And we have different ways of communicating them through you, through the life of your loan. Very important to keep in mind those physical deadlines, especially the March 29th deadline. Midnight on March 29th is the deadline for those physical damage applications. And so we encourage you to apply and do not wait until then to do so. Again, resources. We spoke about the website where you can get the applications. We spoke about the phone number where you can get one-on-one expert support. But the one thing I want to make sure that I leave you with is information on how you can prepare your business or your home. Ready.gov/business for business owners, ready.gov/plan for individuals, homeowners, and renters to be able to find out how easy it is for you to start a conversation to be prepared. Last but not least, then floodsmart.gov for everybody in the group. Okay. And Amanda, if I may, then we can open up the room for any questions if we have any.
Sure. Well, thank you, Roberto, for that very thorough presentation
Mhm.
and for being willing to provide this information to our members. I don't have any questions from those attending at the moment. So with that, I'd like to maybe ask a few of my own here.
Yes.
What happens after an application is submitted?
And that's a good question because it's typically where some level of anxiety or perhaps just the unknown factor comes into play. So we ask you to get together all of this information, go on the website and apply. Once you click on submit, that application goes into a review process. It takes a team. Remember how I mentioned that there is a team in North Central Texas rather. That team is immediately going to go into reviewing your credit, validating all of the information that is placed on that application. That is where some of those questions may be asked early on for you to validate or to basically provide updated or correct information. And if we don't have a means of communicating with you, that right there may be a reason for these for a declination. And so that is what happens. Then our team in the background basically starts reviewing all of the information, establishing conditions, and then the loan or the application rather is assigned to a loan officer. You will be called by one individual, and that is the loan officer. And that is the only person that's going to call you from SBA in terms of discussing your loan. We're not going to review or contact you by email or by mail or by phone. Otherwise, if it's not an SBA disaster loan, then that is basically how we provide that info or obtain that information. And so that normally takes anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the volume of applications that we have. I can tell you that up until today, we have approved a little over $500,000, $600,000 as of this morning had been approved, and the majority of that money had been approved in Pinellas County. And so at this time, then is a good time for you to present that application if you haven't, because you'll be contacted within the next few weeks by a loan officer to be able to discuss. And so that's exactly what happens after you click on submit.
Great, thank you. And we know the SBA has been called on quite a bit to help throughout this pandemic. So is it possible for others to apply if they're currently receiving assistance from another grant program or loan program?
Very important to keep in mind. Yes, there are two separate tracks. You've heard so much about all of those programs that we have available in response to the pandemic. And so those are disaster related, but is specific to the pandemic. And so, yes, if you were affected by a natural disaster, in this case, Tropical Storm Eta, it is handled completely separate from any loan that you may have stemming from the pandemic. Of course, we're going to look at the conditions of the two, your current situation, again, to be able to establish your ability to repay, because the purpose is not to get you into a loan that you're not going to be able to maintain a commitment with. We're going to restructure and provide you with terms that are healthy enough for you to be able to maintain that commitment, and most importantly, recover and reopen your doors. But that's a good question, because COVID-related assistance and disaster or natural disaster-related assistance are two separate tracks.
Great, thank you. Now, what about those that were affected on both sides, both business and personal? Is it possible to get funding for both personal and for a home loan and business?
Yes, most definitely. Behind every business, it's a family. There's a homeowner. And so, yes, if you suffered, whether it was physical damage and or economic injury in a combination of both your business, your private home, even if you have a business, a private home, and a rental property, obviously that you can provide evidence that you use it as a business entity, then most definitely you can apply. Obviously, there's going to be 3 separate conversations with that same loan officer, because the funding will be dispersed separately based on the loan for each one of those properties. So that is a critical point, because we do have obviously that situation. Yeah.
And for that rental property, it applies for both residential and commercial?
Say that again.
The rental property that you mentioned, does it apply for both residential and commercial rental properties?
So yes, and the reason it applies for both is because if the rental property is occupied, then there is a renter in that property. And so yes, the rental owner can apply for that property again to repair or replace the structure. And the renter can apply using that same location, that same address, obviously, to be able to repair or replace contents, whether it is computer, furniture, electronics, your vehicle, which is in this case the very common loss that people experience, vehicles that were damaged by flood, repairing or replacing that vehicle, that actually can happen. Both the homeowner and the renter can apply, obviously separate tracks.
Great, thank you. What about condo owners? Are they eligible to apply as well?
Very important. In being that is Southwest Florida, we do have a lot of condominiums. And so, yes, you can apply. However, we encourage you to first touch bases with your association and first understand the association documents, the rules and the regulations, and how the bylaws apply in relation to property ownership. For those of you who live in condos are very well acquainted with how you own the inside of the property and not necessarily the surroundings, the immediate surroundings of your property. And so make sure you understand to what extent are you really a business, a property owner, and to what extent is the association an owner of a shared or common area that you also utilize as part of your living space, yet you're not responsible for maintaining, because then the two parties may have to apply. The association will have to apply for that common area, and the condo owner for whether it is contents or property damage within that area. Understanding, for example, who is responsible to repair or replace the roof or a wall, an exterior wall, but if it's an interior wall or the ceiling, that is the homeowner. And so, yes, it's important for you to get together with your homeowners association or your condo association and have that conversation before you apply.
Great, thank you. And are interest rates fixed on these loans?
They are fixed, very low, as I said, 1.188 to 3%, and they are fixed.
Great. And one last question. What if I decide to relocate?
And so, yes, and we know that that is a concern for a huge number of community members and business owners in this area. You are able to obtain assistance for relocation, whether it is voluntary or involuntary. There are certain conditions that apply again. And so that is a conversation we encourage you to have with your loan officer. Obviously, each case is unique, and so we encourage you to make sure that you, or as part of your application, you include information that you're interested in relocation funds, or if it is mitigation funds, to make sure that your loan officer knows that it's part of the conversation that needs to be had.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Roberto. We appreciate your time today and appreciate you sharing this information to business owners in North Pinellas County. Please let us know if there's anything we can do to help the SBA, but we certainly appreciate you being a resource and assistant to our business.
Thank you.